Please don't worry about it. We'll be sending around on-demand recording video when it's available. And in case if you have any problem hearing, please crank up the volume. Or if in case if you feel the volume of the speaker is a little low, you can crank up the volume or re-log in. You would be logged back in. I would also like to remind you about our free consultation with ATEC expert on our on cloud and data center migration assessment. There's a link available in the end of the feedback form. Do avail a 45-minute one-on-one consultation with our Atlassian solution experts to understand how Atlassian Cloud data center suits your business needs, what are the costs, what are the benefits, and how do you plan to move ahead. Also, there are some cool handouts available in the form of ebooks, which will be shared on your registered email address, or you must have already downloaded while you were waiting from the waiting screen. Secondly, we've got Amazon vouchers worth 20,000 for selected attendees, based on engagement and submission of feedback form during the webinar. And stick around till the end of the webinar to find out who's the lucky winner. Now, without further ado, we'll turn the time over to our speakers today. First, on the lineup we have Mr. Surinder Pal, who's the CEO of AdTech APAC and has been associated with the industry for almost 20 years. And he's a specialist in assisting enterprises and leveraging technology for optimum performance. Second on the lineup, we've got Mr. Scott Davis from Atlassian, who's a solution engineer manager for APAC region. He's based out of Sydney. Collaborating on a mix of products ranging from cloud to data center is what he does the best. Finally, we have Mr. Vicky Charisma, who's also based out of Sydney, who's a solutions architect on a Atlassian Cloud team, and has been part of the ecosystem for scaling it and maintaining it since the start of his career. So, that's pretty much about the introduction for our speakers, and I would hand over the mic to Mr. Surinder so that he can start over.
Okay, good morning everyone, and festive greetings for Diwali. My name is Surinder. I run AdTech APAC business. Today I have a short session where I'll be talking about basically setting a stage for this webinar series on DevOps with Atlassian Cloud. Most of today's webinar will be around why DevOps and then what are different aspects of DevOps and how can we achieve some of the aspects of DevOps with Atlassian. And we'll have another webinar in later this month where we're going to cover. We'll do a deep dive into Atlassian Cloud. So this will be the flow of event today. I'll spend some time on why DevOps and what are different aspects of DevOps. Maybe on work from home challenges, what additional challenges come in due to the new scenario we have at our hand, and then I'll spend some time talking about about AdTech and how can we help you on some of your DevOps endeavors. And if time permits, I'll walk through some of the success stories as well. Okay, so I think why DevOps? These are some of the key business drivers for which business wants us to implement DevOps, adopt DevOps, execute DevOps. So I think some of the key parameters drivers are faster time to market, so that the application delivery or the software delivery which we all are working on is released to market in a timely manner. There are some initiatives are driven by cost reduction, some are driven by improved uptime, so that when we release new versions of a software, we don't disrupt what's already running, and the downtimes are minimum, and the communication between the delivery between dev and ops is seamless. Throughput is one additional driver of DevOps for teams who are already delivering software for some time. So I think we all are in a new environment. The work from home is forced on some of us, and especially for software delivery teams, it brings additional challenges. The teams were distributed even before, and then we were trying to put together processes and handshakes and communication and collaboration mechanisms to work effectively. But now with everyone working from home in different cities and different time zones, the challenge has gone to a next degree. So the silos which were there earlier between uh, dev and test and then ops teams, and then now those silos have become even more thicker, because even within the function, the teams are struggling to achieve similar level of communication and collaboration. So that kind of increases our challenges, our collaboration needs, and our system needs, and our DevOps needs to a higher degree. Visibility and traceability have always been being challenged, but now in a current scenario, it has amplified a lot more. Now the leaders or managers or people who are executing application deliveries, they are expected to, they need a lot more visibility. They need to do a lot more monitoring, and for that, I think we didn't get enough time to prepare ourselves to put right systems in. So yeah, information security and compliance is obviously another challenge, which I think everyone working from home, from their own internet, that also brings some challenges. So with all these, I think the timeliness and the quality of releases are going for a toss, and that basically calls for improved DevOps practices, improved systems, improved processes, uh, maybe new ways of working together, new culture of working together, and I think that's what DevOps is all about. Some of I think cloud adoption and migration is something now which has become even more crucial, because now, yeah, I think you need central ways of monitoring and doing things. True digital transformation, I think, yeah, the we were talking about digital transformation and DevOps adoptions from some time now, but now I think all three aspects, culture, uh, process, and technology, need to come together and to really make a difference in a current scenario. So I think what we basically need for effective application delivery in these times is a good platform for end-to-end biz DevOps for effective collaboration and team productivity. Okay, I think, yeah, DevOps. There are multiple definitions of DevOps in the industry, and I want to make sure when I use the term DevOps, we use it in the right context. In our consulting experience, we've experienced when people talk about DevOps, they talk in three broad categories. One is CI/CD, where once the code is checked in or a feature is checked in, how quickly can we take that feature uh, from a development environment all the way to production. So and our efficiencies and our automations and processes there will make a lot of difference. It's more or less like an assembly line for a car manufacturing for software delivery. So you have your feature ready. How quickly can you get it to the production? The second one is, now that you have your application or your software on your production environment, and depending on the user load, or depending on how many people log into your application, how quickly can you scale without impacting the availability and performance uh, of your application. And that's category two, where we call it infrastructure as code. And third one is more or less an orchestration of all aspects of DevOps. We call it continuous delivery, biz DevOps, where business, dev, and ops team all work together as an assembly line, where collaboration, communication, and integrations are effective. So I think for rest of my discussion, I'll talk about biz DevOps, because for us, unless we take a holistic view of implementing DevOps, I think something there'll be ineffectiveness in the process. And Atlassian ecosystem offers products and capabilities to cater to various aspects of biz DevOps. And a lot of those features come inbuilt, and in some areas where infrastructure as code, for infrastructure and code capabilities, there are a lot of integrations and connectors available in Atlassian ecosystem. Okay. So yeah, I think specifically for biz DevOps category, yeah, I think now here, like I said, it's about continuous delivery and how do we make sure the whole system works in a continuous manner. You have continuous development where you're taking working with product management to take requirements and doing the development. And then now once your development is done, how do you do your integrations to deploy those new versions on your staging environment, on your dev environment, or also to production. And continuous deployment is about how do you get your infrastructure ready for the application you're deploying to test or for the production. Continuous testing, continuous support, and continuous service are other aspects. And in the upcoming presentations, you will see that Atlassian has a good coverage of capabilities to address most of these aspects, and it's a right ecosystem to accomplish end-to-end biz DevOps. So yeah, I think Scott is going to talk about a lot more in detail around this, but yeah, I wanted to have this slide to give a quick summary of, for all the DevOps life cycle stages, there are Atlassian products and tools available to cater to different needs, and then there's a huge marketplace of 4,000 plus apps which you can use to extend the capabilities for your additional functionality and integration needs. So yeah, I think talking a little bit about Atlassian, about AdTech. So we are a DevOps company. We help our clients achieve sustainable competitive advantage by implementing effective DevOps solutions. We take pride in claiming that while we are a technology expert on Atlassian and AWS and some of other DevOps tools, we are also process champions, be it on SDLC, Agile, Lean, ITSM, scaled frameworks. So we take holistic view at understanding your problems, your challenges in the area of DevOps, and offer solutions which can work today and scale tomorrow. So yeah, we are in this industry from more than 14 years, helping global clients on their ALM and DevOps needs. We are one of the top Atlassian solution platinum partner in the world. We have presence in APAC and in North America. We also partner with AWS. We have 8 plus Atlassian verified plugins on Marketplace. I have a slide to talk about some the popular ones. So yeah, I think we help clients implement their DevOps initiatives. These are 3 popular products which from AdTech. Basically, Excellentable is a Confluence plugin which brings dynamic collaborative capabilities, spreadsheet capabilities on Confluence, while Unstoppable brings accessibility capabilities for visually impaired for most of Atlassian applications. Code Factory is our managed hosting offering for entire DevOps ecosystem, Atlassian++. So yeah, these are some of our clients from India market. We've done, and we're catering to India market from 8 years now. We've done various DevOps implementation ranging from dev management to test management, project and program management implementation, some on continuous integration and deployment. And then there are some clients for whom we've done end-to-end DevOps consulting and DevOps implementation. So if you are interested, you can reach out to me and I can talk more about some of the work which we have done, which we are very proud of.
Vicky to go through more things in detail. Yeah, now we have Scott coming up with his. Yeah, Scott, can you share your screen, Scott?
Yeah, I'm doing that now. Is that coming across?
Yes.
All right, perfect. If at any point the slides don't match my voice or something else goes awry, please just pipe in and let me know, because networks being what they are, we're doing a lot of these things and hitting varied results, but hopefully we'll go okay. So thanks for that, Surinder. And first of all, just greetings from Sydney, and on behalf of Atlassian, welcome. As was mentioned, I'm Scott, and I manage our team of solutions engineers for the APAC region. Before I get into the slide deck itself, I also just wanted to say, on a personal note, over my few years at this company, I've made many, many trips to India. And in fact, before all the travel restrictions started going in place throughout 2020, that was actually the last trip that I took. So I'm very much looking forward to getting back out there and doing more of this in person. But like all of you, we're dealing with lots of working from home and webinars and muddling through best as we can for now. Like many of you, my experience with Atlassian's products in particular extends back a few years, not quite as far back as Vicky. Vicky runs a little bit deeper on that, as you'll see next. But even just with a few years on board from my side, we've definitely seen some major changes along the way. And today I'd like to discuss with you some of the latest developments on one of our core solution areas, really kind of our bread and butter that we've talked about many times over, as Surinder introduced, and that was DevOps. So to set the stage though, I did want to start with a different kind of a complex project. In fact, one of the most complex projects ever undertaken. Just a few months ago, as I'm sure many of you noticed, SpaceX successfully launched and docked a rocket to the International Space Station, bringing us one step closer to not only just commercial space flight, but potentially even being able to achieve a human settlement on Mars. Now, I bring this up because it seems a bit outside the curve for Atlassian. Why is this significant? Well, SpaceX completed this effort in half the time and at a 20th the cost of NASA's original program, which was canceled because the development that they had projected for the necessary booster would have taken 12 years and cost over $36 billion. Even more importantly, though, none of this SpaceX initiative would have ever happened if Elon Musk hadn't first tried and failed to buy his way into space via Russia. It took that setback for him to realize that the bigger opportunity would be actually to set out and build it for himself. Now, we're not all clearly dealing with building rockets, but we are certainly dealing with a number of different complex projects, and all modern companies are setting out on a very similar journey with similar hurdles. So finding new ways of working to deliver faster time to value is certainly a #1 priority. And that's why you essentially begin looking at DevOps, because it's the difference between leading the competition or not, between being the innovator or ultimately being disrupted. And along the way, you end up with 4 essential questions. So first, do I have a high-performing team that's happy and productive? Secondly, how do I support that team's need to use the best tools for a given job? Thirdly, how do I maintain visibility across these tools throughout the entire software delivery process? And finally, are these tools and practices secure? We did a little bit of a survey on our own. It seems like, not surprisingly, a lot of our own customer base is fairly along the way to reaching that goal. We see about 90% of software teams reporting that DevOps had some measurable positive impact on a number of business metrics. However, at the same time, almost the same number, about 84%, reported that they had also still faced barriers to fully implementing DevOps. So it seems like while we're all making a great amount of progress in DevOps transformation, very few of us get to that kind of SpaceX level of momentum. So when we dig into that 84% a little bit further, developers essentially, not surprisingly, want to build. They want to work on cool stuff, and they get frustrated when they have to do bug fix work or sit in meetings or interruptions or status reporting or any other unplanned types of work activities. So when we dug into some of the data behind this, we found out that for many developers, a big part of their day is spent not only just solving problems outside of coding, but problems that an Atlassian platform can actually help to solve and automate. Things like toolchain integration, status and project reporting, a variety of different manual processes, as we'll see, especially in a demonstration that Vicky will give in a bit. And these are just some of the reasons why developers are spending so little time actually developing. And if you wonder, yeah, well, but is this measurement here, this 1 to 4 hours that we're showing, how accurate is that? Is it worth fixing? Is it that common? Consider a simple scenario. If you have a company of just 250 developers and you can save even just 1 hour of day for extra time on actual development tasks, that equates to roughly 30 full-time equivalent developers. And just think of what you could do with those resources on a project in terms of number of features or more expedited releases. There's a lot that we could do. And even though this all might appear a little bit in theory, we do also have some very relevant specific customer data points. So if you look at companies like Fortnite putting out a new product, a new release on time, earned them an additional $2.75 million per day in revenue. So this is like significant amount of impact to the business. Domino's, for delivering pizzas, seems a bit outside the curve from a normal DevOps mode, but if you look at how they were able to pivot quickly during COVID and change not only their application, but really the whole company in many different ways to increase same-store sales, they impacted revenue in an upward trajectory by 16%. And of course, Facebook, when it goes down at all, it doesn't take much to measure per minute, per second a revenue hit. So think of every minute that goes by, if you can tighten up some of these things, it has a very measurable impact to the top and bottom line for a number of different companies. Now, having said that, whether it's Domino's or SpaceX or any of the other examples, most DevOps teams do have to wrestle with a complex array of tools, a lack of visibility, issues with security, and just silos across teams. So really these four main challenges come down to building the right DevOps tool chain is quite time consuming. How do you balance autonomy and coordination? How do you look at breadth versus depth of different solutions? And how do you really mitigate a number of different types of responsibilities? How do you really get, as Surinder mentioned, kind of your arms around this activity holistically, because it involves a number of different aspects? Or essentially kind of the million-dollar question, how were customers solving this challenge before looking at something or using something like Atlassian DevOps? What are the environments that we've seen out there that many of you probably have out there today still and are trying to evolve forward? It probably looks something a little more akin to this, a little bit of everything. Lots of tools for different teams and different departments and different projects. Lots of everything, but nothing holding it all together. The software delivery toolchain continues to evolve incredibly fast. Developers are constantly seeking an advantage, looking at the next best tooling. One day it's something around Docker, then it's Kubernetes, then it's something else, just as one example. And this has helped propel innovation, but it also comes with a huge amount of debt as part of that. So how do we tackle balancing that out, still connecting the dots and determining the business value of initiatives that you're investing in, because that becomes quite difficult across all these silos? How do we ultimately integrate some of these disparate solutions so that we can try to minimize wasted work effort and focus on doing the right things at the right time? And as part of that, how do we provide, above and beyond all of that, a centralized view across the entire tool chain? Given the breadth of tools in a typical enterprise, and according to some recent reports from Gartner, that totals around the 26 mark, this topic of tool chain centralization quite often will come up as a potential solution. We'll just buy one product, it's pre-integrated, it'll do everything that we need. That is one option, but we believe that is ultimately an unrealistic path in terms of keeping pace with things. And that's why SpaceX is much more than just an inspirational story in the realm of software development. It actually helps to surface one simple concept that DevOps isn't bought, it's built. And just like Elon Musk couldn't buy his way to afford space travel, truly transformative DevOps has to be built. The truth is no single technology vendor will ever deliver a complete end-to-end solution for DevOps. The market moves too quickly and the pressures are too great to optimize for just good enough tools. You've got to be able to integrate across the board as part of that. Not surprisingly, that's where Atlassian and our mission and our focus on our heritage around DevOps comes into play. So at Atlassian, we connect dev and IT ops and business, this idea of biz DevOps that was mentioned earlier. We connect across all those teams in ways no other vendor can, because faster time to value isn't just a tech team mission. It speaks to a broader scope across a number of different areas of your company. And acting as a central hub for that, a central backbone, are things like Jira, to be the ultimate source of truth for planning, building and operating your software stack, while abstracting out some of the underlying complexity to really make that diverse, realistic tool chain feel like it's all in one. And we create a platform for agile collaboration that goes beyond dev and IT to power that view across your entire organization. Our agile solution, in fact, helps your company to discover, plan, and track work, of course. On the DevOps side, we can help additional development, test, and site reliability teams to speed code through to release, and ultimately onto the ITSM operations front to bring the most complete post-deployment capabilities into operations so that you can automate change management and accelerate any subsequent incident resolutions as part of that. Furthermore, we give that layer across the top for a C-level suite. Atlassian provides visibility into all work, fostering the greatest results across the entire platform. And that consists naturally of a number of different products. And we'll just focus on a subset today to the core, that infinity loop that Surinder already put up earlier on the DevOps front. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention again that this is a holistic approach. It's methodologies and its products, but it also speaks to the keen guidance and expertise that are provided by our partners such as AdTech in order to make this work completely. So specific to DevOps and our approach on that front, it starts first and foremost by accelerating your workflow with the ability to manage built-in connection points that are ready to be hooked up to both Atlassian and third-party tools. Secondly, it empowers your team to design the way they want to work with unmatched flexibility powered by automation, as well as additional extension points through our marketplace, ultimately allowing teams to choose tools that they work best in and leverage those existing investments. Developers will always seek and continue to seek the tools that create the most value for their initiatives. No one company will ever own them all because the space simply moves too quickly. And finally, that gets us to something that wraps around all of this, which is, again, automation. Our DevOps enables you to automate a number of practices and activities, allowing each team to take a number of tedious tasks and pull them away, which ultimately pull teams away from customer value, while ensuring a system of record is always kept as part of that. In fact, with just the automation features in Jira, it can take a maximum actually, many times of 30 seconds to automate away hundreds of hours of your most tedious and repetitive work in a year. And we'll see a bit more on that later on as well. Now, for those of you who already are Atlassian customers and perhaps are using some of our on-prem products, you can take advantage furthermore of how many of these prepackaged capabilities are already available, especially on the cloud side with our SaaS offering. Through an extended cloud trial, you can activate those. They're associated with your existing support entitlement number. They allow you to really try in parallel to what you already have on premise to look at a lot of these features that we'll go through with you today. And that extends through your current maintenance period up to a maximum of 5,000 users. It gives you the ability to really kind of well and truly vet the cloud side of things. And again, what we'll see in action here as part of that. If you're not a customer just yet, you can certainly use our free tier, and you can also spin up trials at a number of different tiers in our cloud offering. Trials happen above and beyond any free sites that might be in use, and can be done at a standard tier, some limitations as you see outlined here. On the premium tier, we lift those restrictions for unlimited storage, for additional support, and we also provide additional features, a growing list of additional features, such as things like administrative insights and IP allow lists to further secure that environment down. Across all of these, we also provide Atlassian access that can connect into your centralized IDP, which ensures a wall-to-wall coverage for all of your users. And this is particularly useful for a work from home mode that many of us now face. Depending on your usage, there is also an enterprise tier that's available with increased SLAs and additional specialized features around sandboxing and release tracks. And happy to dig into that further for any of you who might fit that category. But across the entire platform, and specific to key areas for DevOps, regardless of which tier you use, automation is again embedded into the core of Atlassian Cloud. We surface numerous triggers and actions that can be leveraged to customize and fully automate a variety of activities through a simple click and configure interface. If then else, if this trigger occurs, fire this activity, whether that's through our own additional products, as well as any third-party ones that need to be incorporated as well. And more than just setting up automation rules around that, you can track and measure and report and analyze on exactly how these automations are running across the entire organization as well. It gives you direct access to a number of key metrics to really see where you've able to fully automate things further, or areas that you may need to look at further as part of that. Similarly, at the premium tier, across all the products in Atlassian Cloud, we give additional user activity metrics. Again, the option to limit access to your instance through specific IP settings, this IP allow listing configuration, as well as the ability to have numerous non-production environments, a sandbox mode or area for testing as well. And these are some additional areas, especially for DevOps, that are quite crucial. In addition to the security front with IP allow listing, one thing that I find a number of customers are quite keen on is really leaning into taking Atlassian access and potentially wiring that into an optional CASB provider for data loss prevention. If you're not familiar with CASB, because quite honestly, I wasn't before we activated this cool feature in our product, the way I like to think of it that we may have experienced personally is if you've ever had a fraudulent charge on a credit card, how that gets flagged and the bank will call you. It's monitoring that type of activity at a very granular level to take that information and proactively kind of head off instances. So in the context of a DevOps world, you can think of if there are some odd logins or an excessive number of downloads or people accessing under the same ID from different locations. Rather than just logging it, you actually want to proactively get in front of what might be occurring there. So we allow you through our centralized access security layer to really take those analytics and drive that proactive type of activity using an optional CASB provider. And this can be done in a number of ways, especially in a work from home model that you may not have ever been able to achieve in quite the same fashion on-prem. Again, the example that I show here, the first cab off the rank that we did integration for on the CASB front was using McAfee's mVision product. And again, it linked directly into Access. It extended that so that rather than reactively logging information, it will proactively surface behaviors such as, hey, I'm Scott, I just logged into Confluence and I'm sat here in Sydney. And 5 minutes later, oh, hey, here's Scott again. He just logged in from Tokyo. Clearly, that's something that needs to be looked at. It really elevates this idea of security and logging and auditing from a reactive investigative tool and really elevates it to more of a real-time proactive action that you can trigger activities around to be addressed more rapidly. Over time, we anticipate expanding the range of actions captured here to, again, be able to do things like proactively cut off repeated access violations, a heavy amount of downloads, perhaps for a user that's gearing up to leave the company. You know, these are all common scenarios that we get asked about that are actually much easier to address especially now in a work from home, a SaaS environment approach to things as part of that. And those are just the highlights. There's just a lot more underneath this. There's a lot more to come. And hopefully it gives you a sense of how we achieve some of our core beliefs around DevOps that I've mentioned already. But just to re-itemize them once again, open tool chains over all-in-one. No single vendor will ever deliver all the tools. The space moves too quickly. You need to be able to build around an idea of hot swappable tools that you can centralize, that you can manage in one area, but still leave in place for the teams as needed. Secondly, developers will always seek, again, to use the best tools that create value. Executive mandates and bundling are never enough. You still want those teams to be able to differentiate and use different things as necessary. Agility itself requires both a level of developer autonomy, but still coordination. You really need both, not one or the other. How do we provide that separation, but really accommodate both sides of that? And a close counterpart to that, the fourth point here, while code is obviously critical, especially in the context of DevOps, your company can't all collaborate in code. Code doesn't need to be at the center. Work needs to be at the center of collaboration. And Atlassian provides the platform to wrap around both sides of that. Finally, and I mentioned this at the top of my segment, you can't buy DevOps. It's not a SKU. It's not a line item. It's not a single bundle that you get from one vendor. It's a collection and an approach and an integration. It's a way of working and building systems that empower teams and customers to work in different ways. So that's why Atlassian is so invested in both tools and practices, especially in this space. And even SpaceX wasn't able to solve the problems of commercialized space travel by pulling things off the shelf. They were testing and learning and iterating, just like a regular software company. SpaceX wouldn't be able to ship an astronomically complex launch like they did in May without using Atlassian's own tools at the core of their collaboration. So empowering teams with flexible tooling and agile practices really can take your business and your teams further than you could ever imagine. And this is just one fantastic example of that. So thanks for learning more about our general approach and updates on the DevOps front. To illustrate things a little bit further at the product level, I'll now hand the mic over to Vicky. So Vicky, it is all yours.
Hey everyone. In this section of the presentations, I will walk you through some of the key product experience across Atlassian DevOps tool chains. By now, we already know the benefits of adopting DevOps, such as increased development speed, reliability, and more open and transparent culture. However, from the survey that we sent out of the 500 DevOps practitioners, we found that some practices that were supposed to make developers' life easier were causing new kinds of pain. As you can imagine, with shared responsibility between dev and ops, developer role often expanded to things like owning application security or chasing people down for a pull request. And often this happened by context switching on multiple different applications. And from the survey that we ran, it took most teams an average of 8 tools between ideations to delivery. And most of these tools are disconnected or not work well with each other. This leads the developer had to context switching to multiple product experience and spending more time outside of the code. The second pain point is testing is still too manual. Sufficient test coverage remains a top challenge for team since feedback doesn't come quickly as enough, and it still involves a lot of meetings and manual approval. And last but not least, it's hard to adopt to new ways of collaborations with a team. Most companies are focused on finding and setting up the right tools, but they shouldn't let that come at the cost of putting their team first. So how do we solve this? Well, Atlassian believes that DevTool chains needs to build around the idea of hot swappable tool suited to the task. No single vendor will ever deliver all of the tools because this space moves too quickly. Developer will always seek to use the best tools to create values and advantage. No one company will own them all. Agility requires level of developers' autonomy, but business requires coordinations. And GitHub and GitLab says code is at the center. Well, we disagree. The code is critical, but not everyone works on the software projects interact with the code. Code is at the center for developers, but work collaborations need to be at the center for the teams and the company. If your DevOps transformation is successful, I can promise you it goes well beyond the code at the center. Dev and IT and the business are collaborators when DevOps is realized. At Atlassian, we see it as our mission to help teams experience DevOps benefits without the growing pains. We are on a journey to connect dev, IT, and business teams in a way no other vendors can. Atlassian uniquely connects dev and ops teams with automation engine that span across Atlassian toolchains and developer favorite apps, so the developers can seamlessly collaborate and move through each stages in DevOps workflow while staying connected to the code entire time. More code and less administrations. Now over the next few slides, we'll zoom in into the key features for each of the DevOps stages that help remove the frictions for developers. Let's start with the features and support planning and tracking. With the Your Work dashboard in Bitbucket, developer can see all the recent repositories, status of their PR, and related Jira issues within a single location so they know how to start their day. For developers spending a lot of time keeping their Jira board updated for product and project managers, we're introducing DevOps and automations triggers. Powered by automations for Jira, we're integrated some of the most popular Bitbucket, GitHub, and GitLab actions to be used, including the ability to transition a ticket to done when there are no open PRs, or post a message in Slack when a commit is pushed. There are endless ways for developers to automate manual works across the tools and stay out of the meetings. Let's look at our enhanced capability in the build phase. Whether a developer prefers working in a Bitbucket or IDE, our goal is to cut down the number of tabs and login that try to take them out of their tools of choice. Our integrations help developer review, comment, test, and deploy without ever losing their context. The Bitbucket new code review UI brings relevant code review information into the pull request experience. Developer will spend less time in code reviews with an experience that make it easier to identify code changes or creating action items and feedback and juggle multiple pull requests at once. All of the code review changes can be categorized into three main experiences that we're building: reviewing code, collaborations, and workflow management. We've added a file tree navigations, build passes status, and tasks to the right-hand navigations to allow users to access them at any time during the code review. And there is more. With our integration with Visual Studio Code, now you can see all of your Jira and Bitbucket informations within the IDE. Next up, let's take a look at our new features to support CI/CD, shift left, and fast feedback. In Bitbucket, we've added a code insight to our new pull request experience. A code insight is powered by best-of-breed DevOps vendor, including Mabel for test automations and Sentry for automated monitoring. Our integrations with DevSecOps vendor SNCC show security vulnerability in pull requests. Let's see how this works. Here is an example of code vulnerability scanning with SNCC. Working in a Bitbucket or IDE, our goal is to cut down the number of tabs and login that try to take them out of their tools of choice. Our integrations help developer review, comment, test, and deploy without ever losing their context. The Bitbucket new code review UI brings relevant code review information into the pull request experience. Developer will spend less time in code reviews with an experience that make it easier to identify code changes or creating action items and feedback and juggle multiple pull requests at once. All of the code review changes can be categorized into three main experiences that we're building: reviewing code, collaborations, and workflow management. We've added a file tree navigations, build passes status, and tasks to the right-hand navigations to allow users to access them at any time during the code review. And there is more. And Sentry for automation. Moving on, let's look at how developers and IT can work more closely together with our Jira Service Management and Bitbucket pipelines integrations. We can now connect Jira Service Management. Moving on, let's look at how developers and IT can work more closely together with our Jira Service Management and Bitbucket pipelines integrations. We can now connect Jira Service Management and Bitbucket pipelines to automatically create a change request in Jira Service Management without having to leave the developer experience in pipelines. This integrations is also available for Jenkins, Circle CI, and Octopus Deploy, supporting the flow of information between developers and IT, whichever tools your organization is using. And with the new risk assessment engine that's powered by automation for Jira, you can quickly score the risk and determine if it's a low-risk change that can be auto-approved and deployed, or if the risk is a high risk that requires further approval. And the beauty of all of this is that it's unblocked the deployment team, while still giving the IT ops complete audit trail of the changes deployed in one place, in Jira Service Management. It makes it easier for IT ops to be a true partner to developer teams. No more finger pointing or waiting days for a simple change to make its way through. But what happens when there is a high-risk change that requires further approval? Let's take a look into more details. In Jira Service Management, the new change management view pulls together all the information of the changes that managers need to decide whether to approve the change or not, all in one view, including information about the changes and the affected services and the risk score from the risk engine, and who needs to approve the change. So the developer can track the progress of the request right from their CI/CD tools. And once the change is approved, Jira Service Management automatically unblocks the deployments for the DevOps teams and push that change into productions. That's what's unique about our approach to change management. By putting Dev and IT on the same platform, we're able to automate the last mile that's so essential for responding to business change. Next, let's look at Operate. With our deep integrations with the Opsgenie and Bitbucket, we centralize all alerts and filters out all the noise that makes sure that the right issues are being picked up, the right people are being alerted, and the right action is taken. The incident investigation dashboard in Opsgenie lets incident response team quickly get to the root cause of the incident to try and restore the service fast. And with the deep integrations between Opsgenie and Bitbucket, we can now see all the deployments related to a particular service and show the deployments that happen right alerting and ChatOps tools, allowing your proactive communications with customers and stakeholders during an incident time. And that's not all. With our mobile apps for Android and iOS, we have added a new DevTool summary and release hub into so now developer can see their PR status or receive notification and also manage release anytime, anywhere. With the code in Jira, user can navigate Jira tickets with code as a top-level navigations item. With Bitbucket connected, user automatically see which repos their team is working on, right in the code view in Jira. The code view will also recommend best DevOps integrations to connect and steps to take to get more to the value out of your tool chain. If you're a manager, you're going to love this. With the deployments in Jira, you can visualize the progress of work as it moves through the deployment pipelines. With this new view, teams will never have to worry about missing the status on a change ever again. They can simply check the view to get the clear visibility into where a change is in the pipeline and when it will reach customer. And last but not least is our Resource Hub. Our Resource Hub shares guidance on how to connect tools with practices and cultivate world-class DevOps culture. The Hub will include DevOps community, DevOps Confluence templates, and DevOps reference architecture. I recommend you to check this out. And with that, we'll open up for questions.
Really grateful insights from Scott, from Surinder, from Scott, and from Vicky. There was some. I have some great comments in the chat room as well. So right now we're opening up for Q&A. So I would request all the attendees to drop in your Q&As onto the chat box so we can just start taking one of them. And yeah, I do have a question which was at the start of the webinar, that is from Prakhar. Can you elaborate more on biz DevOps?
Sure. Maybe Jay, I can take.
I think Surinder introduced that, so I'll let him take that one.
So yeah, biz DevOps, I think it's basically a few years back, there was this concept of DevOps where we said there are increasing silos between dev and ops, and then we need to build tools and then integrations and automations between dev and ops teams so that we can release quality software on time without much trouble. And then as we made progress on improvements between dev and ops teams, I think the industry noticed that I think there's a bigger or maybe there's also a need on collaboration between business teams and dev teams and ops teams, so that right from upstream, from the time the requirements are being studied in the market or being written for developers. If we improve collaboration and communication on that side, the overall software delivery pipeline efficiencies would improve dramatically. And then that's what some people call it DevOps 2.0 or Biz DevOps, Biz, Dev, and Ops all together. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I would second that, and I would just say I've seen that bubble continue to expand. You know, it's DevOps, Biz DevOps. I went to a seminar in Singapore a year and a half ago. It was Biz Dev SecOps. Like,
SecOps.
it's all these other things. Yeah, it's really all these other things that you need to think of as part of development, but you need to bring it in line as part of the overall work. So I think the spirit of it's the same as what you described, Surinder, but I think that bubble will just continue to expand. And that's why, from our perspective, in terms of tackling DevOps, again, we focus more on the work than just the code. Yeah, that there's a lot of ancillary activities that you want to bring in line as well.
The next question that we have is from Satish. He wants to know any plans of Fisheye and Crucible SaaS offering. Is there any alternative code review tool from Atlassian?
I'm not aware of a specific alternative. Vicky might be across that a bit more than I am. But in terms of Fisheye and Crucible, or what we sometimes refer to as FECRU, that product is not going to exist in a SaaS offering. But Vicky, you're a bit closer to that tooling. Are you aware of any other options on that front? Looks like Vicky might not be able to answer. We'll follow up with that if we have to anyway.
Jay, you need to add.
Yeah, I'm just doing that.
Yeah,
Vicky, they bumped you back up to presenter. You should be able to unmute, I think.
Yeah.
It says that I'm already unmute. Am I audible? Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a very good question. So there is no immediate plan to bring the Fisheye and Fisheye to the cloud. And recently we just with the latest announcements with the retiring server product, like we also release our product roadmap. So if you go atlassian.com/roadmap, then you can you can find our product roadmap for the next for the invisible future.
Thanks, Vicky.
All right. We have next question from Biswa. How AdTech tools can help in patching on the infra side? Or probably how AdTech can help in patching on the infra side, basically. So that's something which is there. And
So I don't know if I understand the question right, but yeah, I think on the infra side, so while Atlassian offers a lot of project management, project tracking, CI/CD capabilities, infrastructure automation, I think there are a lot of integrations available with infrastructure automation tools like Puppet and Docker and some of the cloud interfaces as well. So yeah, I think any specifics I'll have to discuss separately to see what exactly you're referring to, and then I can point out specific connectors for that integration. I hope that It answers your question.
The other question that we have from Prakhar is again regarding CI/CD. It's if we create CI/CD pipeline, and in case if it's broken, then how can we recover it? As in the current scenario, we are rebuilding it and creating in Jira.
Okay, I might be able to answer this one. So if we create CI/CD development and case is broken, then how can we recover it as in current scenario? Yeah, I'm not sure what does it mean by recreating in Jira.
Yeah, that's where I was a bit lost, Vicky. I followed it up until that point, and then I wasn't quite sure
Yeah.
what exactly was being asked.
Yeah, Prakhar, maybe if you can expand on the questions, then we can answer that.
What he says is kind of a bug.
I think it looks like a troubleshooting question, which we can probably take offline.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So if the pipeline is broken, so it means that pipeline is our CI/CD tool. So it execute the task that you created for your project. So what happens if there's any issues during the deployment or during the integrations or deployment stage? Then, as I mentioned during the demo, so if there is any vulnerability scans or if there's any issues, then pipeline will give you the log, and it will highlight where is the problem directly on the pipeline UI, so directly on the Bitbucket UI, so you don't have to go back to your CI/CD to find out what's the error. It will highlight it there, and then you can have the link to the relevant commit or to the relevant branch that is causing the problem.
And the only thing I'll add off the back of that is the fact, and it ties a little to the last question as well, potential hooks into infrastructure, I suspect, but that pipeline process for us, and this is on the roadmap that Vicky had mentioned, we are planning in the very near term to allow pipeline runners that can execute behind the firewall, even as you move to Atlassian Cloud. So you can distribute that workload, tie into other systems, and do that as part of the overall pipeline to manage other infrastructure aspects as well. So if you go to that roadmap, it'll literally say Bitbucket pipeline runners, I think is the tagline that's on that entry.
Interesting. We got another question from Satish saying that our organization requires legal agreements to be signed with the software providers before purchasing licenses. Does Atlassian sign agreements with the organization?
Yeah, I'm the wrong person to tackle that. I mean, I know I work with a lot of our different sales reps and different partners on that front. I don't know the specifics. That's something we would have to proxy into another team to see what the options are there. Have you guys ever dealt with this, Surinder, from your end on trying to address this need?
So yeah, I think Atlassian has basically there are in public space there are end user license agreements and then license usage agreements which are there on Atlassian website. And for most of the time, what I've seen is Atlassian goes by standard agreements, and we've. So yeah, I think when you procure licenses from Atlassian or via partners like AdTech, those agreements apply to both the sides.
Yeah, I know we have standardized agreements, so certainly those are an option. But if it gets beyond that, or if it becomes a discussion of not signing our agreements, but signing their agreements, I know that gets into some different territory that I'm not as across how to navigate.
I've got an interesting question from Neelu Tyagi. It says that how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? What are the key differentiating features Atlassian has, and what makes it stand in the DevOps arena? I think all three of you can contribute to this.
Yeah, so I can answer that, and maybe Scott can add in more context later. So in Atlassian, we are on a journey to connect the dev. I think we are a very unique position. So Atlassian, like we are seen as a pioneer of agile methodology. So Jira, if you are using Jira, you're associated to agile team. So that's kind of like a unique position. And then we have a service desk that is, also, which is now rebranded as a service management. So those kind of like a tools that is being used by the IT teams. And then with our DevOps tooling like Bitbuckets and Bamboos and and fisheye, and now we have everything. Like we are in a journey now to kind of tie it all up together into like a one into our DevOps offering. So by having the IT teams and the dev teams and the business teams on the same platform, there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of automate and then make everything work seamlessly. So things like automation. So for example, automation is an engines that you have in Jira. Is very low code or minimum no code engines that you can create any automations. So for example, if you make a commit in Bitbucket, and then it will automatically update your issues and then change the status from open to in progress. Or you can create as many automations that you like, and then with the new risk assessment engine, then you can automate deployment. It giving you a risk assessment. Like if a change is a low risk, and then it will automatically deploy to your staging and productions. Or if a change is a high risk, and then it will mark it as an approval. So there's a lot of collaborations that could happen between the dev and ITs and the business team. So that's I think what makes us unique in terms of solutions in the DevOps arena.
And then what I would like to add there is, I think one of the key differentiators here is that Atlassian comes in it's a very modular approach where you can start small with if you just want to start with, your development teams want to start with Jira, they buy just Jira, and then if once they like Jira, we've seen people adopting Confluence for their document management, and then Bitbucket for their source code management. So I think in our consulting experience around Atlassian, what we've seen is customers love this approach where they pay for what they use, and their usage evolves with time, and the integrations are awesome. Marketplace is awesome with so many apps and plugins and connectors to extend the capability to the next level.
Perfect. Yeah, and I purposely waited till last because I kind of wanted to hear Surinder's take. It's always good. Like I'm always going to come across as biased because I work for Atlassian, so I was keen to hear what the perspective was from one of our partners there. The only thing I'll do is kind of wrap around comments that came from both Vicky and Surinder, in that certainly our difference, one of our core differences is the fact that, again, we focus on the work, not just the code. So we're across everything in terms of managing that initial work activity from development on through to operations, and everything across that, not only in terms of products and some of the differences that were called out already, but the one other thing that I didn't talk about today that we quite often talk about in other webinars is the fact that we also share best practices from a teaming perspective on how to most effectively use that. So we have this idea of team playbooks where we share our experiences, our expertise that are packaged up in ways to help your teams more effectively take these methodologies and products on board. And that's our own experience augmented from a number of other large accounts across the globe as well. And we're happy to share that freely. And then to Surinder's point, you kind of pick and choose the elements that make the most sense and wire it into the other products that you have in place. So that's what I see as kind of being the differentiating vector that Atlassian operates on there. Did we lose our moderator?
So maybe we can, while Jay is away, maybe I can do my bit. So maybe we'll take one last question on, I think there's a comment, we are planning to move out of Jira Server to SaaS. Who can help with the merger of multiple Jira sites?
Jira Server sites into one Jira Cloud site.
Right.
Where I can find some help, notes, and prerequisites.
So yeah, I think I'll take that up. So yeah, I think partners like AdTech have a lot of experience in helping customers migrate from one deployment more to other. We've done a lot of work on where organizations wants to consolidate all their Atlassian instances into one, and then I think it calls for assessment in terms of what you have on each instance, and standardize and make sure configurations and customizations and users and permissions are well managed. So yeah, I think so. We have some case studies. If you're interested, we can send those to you, and then we can talk in detail about your specific needs.
And just to link off the back of that, because we have these chats all the time, right? There are a number of customers.
I think we're running a little over time, and I'm pretty sure we all of our presenters and attendees do have things. So there are a couple of questions which we have taken it down, and we'll be reaching out to the audience as soon as possible with replies from our team. I think so. We've covered. Is there anything that the presenters want to add to this particular webinar, or any last minute virtues that you would like to share with the audiences, or anything?
Just actually coming off the back of that last question, the last thing I'll mention in terms of looking at consolidating and or moving to the cloud, we
Am I audible?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't hear you.
We have a lot of material that can be used in terms of better assessing that, because it's a prime area.
All right. So let's call it a wrap up. Yeah.
But it sounds like our moderator can't hear me, so I'm going to shut up.
Yes, please. I thought no one was going. That's the reason.
It's okay. I just didn't want to be talking over. Anyway, all good. We'll follow up with more materials.
Yeah, we could. Jay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I wish you very happy Diwali. Enjoy your Diwali. Play safe. Be cautious. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Bye for now.